Welcome to our deep dive, you guys, into the world of gambling.
Yeah.
We're going to be exploring its allure, the psychology behind it, and the risks involved. And we're going to be doing this by weaving together two fascinating stories from Japan.
These cases really highlight the unexpected ways gambling can
Yeah.
show up in our lives.
Right.
Then the consequences can be shocking.
Oh, absolutely, to say the least.
Yeah.
Okay, so first up we have the case of Shohei Otani, the baseball superstar,
Right.
and his translator, Mizuhara Ippei, who allegedly gambled away millions of Otani's dollars.
Yeah, it's a story that grabs you right away.
It does.
You have this incredibly talented athlete at the top of his game,
Yeah.
and then this betrayal by someone he trusted completely with his finances.
Yeah, I was reading that Otani and Mizuhara were really close.
Yeah.
Mizuhara even helped Otani set up his bank account
Wow.
because of the language barrier.
Right.
So I guess that made it easier for him to allegedly siphon off funds without raising any red flags.
Yeah, that's what makes this case so compelling, you know?
Yeah.
It goes beyond the financial loss and raises questions about how we perceive risk and the illusions we create to justify certain behaviors.
Totally. So walk me through how this alleged scheme worked.
Okay, so it seems like Mizuhara was allegedly transferring funds from Otani's bank account to various gambling sites.
Okay.
He would keep any winnings for himself and meticulously cover his tracks, making sure Otani remained unaware for 2 whole years.
2 years, $41 million.
Yeah.
That's mind-blowing.
It's a huge amount of money, no doubt.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that it's actually a relatively small portion of Otani's overall wealth.
Oh, really?
You know, remember, he's got a massive salary from the Los Angeles Angels.
Right.
And millions more from endorsements.
Yeah, I read that his salary from the Angels is $2 million.
Yeah.
And his endorsements bring in a whopping $35 million per year.
Wow.
According to U.S. media.
Yeah.
But still, $41 million is nothing to sneeze at.
No.
I can't even imagine feeling betrayed like that, especially by someone so close.
Absolutely. It really highlights the human element at play here.
Right.
Trust, betrayal, and the lengths people will go to hide their actions.
Yeah, so we have this high-profile case of alleged embezzlement, but how does this tie into the bigger picture of gambling and its presence in our everyday lives?
That's the key question. The Otani case might seem like an extreme example, but it serves as a springboard to explore how gambling in its various forms can be found in everyday life.
So let's define what we mean by gambling.
Sure.
What exactly are we talking about?
At its core, gambling is about taking a risk, betting on an uncertain outcome in the hopes of gaining something.
Okay.
It could be money, possessions, or even time and effort.
So we're talking everything from playing the lottery to investing in a startup.
Exactly. The lines can get pretty blurry. Starting a business or investing in stocks both have inherent risk and uncertainty, much like gambling.
Wow.
The key difference is the level of control you have over the outcome and the intention behind the risk.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
It really makes you think about what activities in your own life might be considered a form of gambling.
Absolutely. And to complicate matters further, we have to look at a country like Japan.
Right.
They have a really complex relationship with gambling.
Right. It's technically illegal, except when it isn't.
Right.
What's the story there?
Well, on the surface, gambling is illegal in principle. But then you have all these exceptions and gray areas.
Yeah.
Pachinko, for example, is a perfect illustration of this.
Oh, yeah. Pachinko.
Yeah.
It's everywhere in Japan.
Right.
How does that work?
It's a fascinating system they have.
Yeah.
Basically, pachinko parlors use what's called the three-shop system to sidestep the law.
Yeah.
Players win these small metal balls, which are then exchanged for prizes at a separate shop. And then those prizes can be sold for cash at a third shop conveniently located nearby.
So it's like a loophole.
Right.
It feels a bit like they're trying to pretend it's not gambling.
Right. And this convoluted system really highlights the tension societies grapple with when it comes to gambling. On one hand, there's the allure and the potential economic benefits.
Right.
On the other hand, there are concerns about addiction and the social costs.
Right.
It's a fascinating push and pull.
It is. Okay, so even with these legal complexities, why is gambling so appealing to people in the first place? What drives someone to take those risks? Whether it's buying a lottery ticket or getting caught up in a high-stakes poker game.
That's a great question, and there are a lot of psychological factors at play.
Okay.
Obviously, there's the dream of overnight riches. That fantasy of winning big and changing your life is incredibly powerful.
I see what you mean. It's that classic what-if scenario.
Exactly, and humans are hardwired for wishful thinking. We tend to overestimate our chances of winning and downplay the risks involved.
Yeah.
It's just part of how our brains work.
Yeah, plus there's the thrill of the game itself.
Right.
I know I get a rush of excitement when I'm playing a game, even if it's just for fun.
Sure.
Winning feels great.
Of course.
But even losing can trigger a dopamine response.
Yeah.
In the brain.
You're absolutely right. Gambling can be incredibly stimulating, releasing those feel-good chemicals in our brains.
Right.
And just like with any addictive substance, it can create a cycle of craving and dependence.
Yeah.
That's why some people find it so difficult to stop, even when they know they should.
Right, and that brings us back to the statistics we mentioned earlier from the Japanese Ministry of Health, Labor, and Welfare.
Yeah.
They found that pachinko and lottery are the most addictive forms of gambling.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Both are incredibly accessible and have a low barrier to entry.
Right.
Pachinko parlors are ubiquitous, and lottery tickets are readily available. This ease of access makes them particularly dangerous, especially for individuals who might be predisposed to addiction.
You mentioned predisposition to addiction. Is there a genetic component to that?
There's growing evidence to suggest that genes play a role in vulnerability to addiction.
Okay.
It's not a guarantee, of course.
Right.
Your genes don't determine your destiny.
Right.
But for some people, they might have a stronger pull towards certain behaviors.
Okay.
Including gambling. It's this complex interplay.
Got it.
Between nature and nurture.
Okay, so we have this understanding of the psychology behind gambling.
Yeah.
But I'm really eager to dive into the story of Yoshiaki Kiyokawa.
Okay.
His case seems like a cautionary tale.
Right.
Showing how gambling can lead to downfall.
Yeah.
Even for someone who seemingly had it all.
It's a story that really grabs you.
Yeah.
Kiyokawa was born into wealth and privilege.
Wow.
He excelled academically and effortlessly climbed the ranks of his family's company.
Right.
Dio Paper Corporation, he became chairman, living a life many would envy.
Yeah, it's almost ironic.
Right.
His success in business, his ability to make calculated decisions may have blinded him to the dangers of gambling.
Right.
Like he didn't even see it as a risk.
That's a fascinating observation.
Right.
And it's full of these paradoxical elements.
Totally.
For example, his first experience with gambling was on a family trip to Australia.
Okay.
He tried baccarat and turned 1 million yen into 20 million overnight.
Wow.
Beginner's luck, right?
Talk about a rush. It makes you wonder what went through his mind at that moment. Did he see it as a sign?
Right.
Or just a fun win?
Yeah.
You know?
It's hard to say for sure.
Right.
But that early win might have cemented his perception of gambling as easy, almost effortless.
Wow.
But, as we know, luck can be fleeting.
Right.
The house always has an edge.
So how did his gambling evolve from there? Did it stay casual or did things escalate?
Well, that's where we'll pick things up.
Okay.
The next part of our deep dive.
Okay.
Kiyokawa's journey takes some unexpected turns.
I can't wait to hear what happens next.
Me too.
All right, we'll be right back after a short break.
Sounds good.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of gambling. When we left off, Yoshiaki Kiyokawa was experiencing a taste of that beginner's luck.
Yeah.
Turning 1 million yen into 20 million playing baccarat in Australia.
It's that early win that often hooks people.
Yeah.
It feeds into the illusion of control.
Right.
The belief that they have some special knack for beating the odds.
Yeah. It's like they've cracked the code.
Yeah.
But we were talking about how Kiyokawa already lived a life of luxury.
Right.
Even before his gambling took over.
Yeah.
He had extravagant tastes, including a penchant for
a
really strong Polish vodka. What was it called?
Spiritus. It's 96% alcohol.
Oh, wow.
That's practically pure alcohol.
Yeah.
And some countries even restrict its sale because of its potency.
96% can't even imagine.
That's a lot.
It does seem to fit with this image of Kiyokawa as someone who lived on the edge, both in his business dealings and his personal life.
It's interesting you say that in his book, Confessions of a Former Chairman, Kiyokawa actually claims that for him, gambling wasn't about the money at all.
Really? So it wasn't about greed or getting rich?
No, not really. He was chasing a thrill, a level of excitement he couldn't find anywhere else, even as a successful business leader.
So what was it about then?
He described the feeling of gambling as similar to a near-death experience, a rush of adrenaline that surpassed anything else he'd felt.
Wow. That's a pretty powerful analogy.
Yeah.
It really speaks to how addictive gambling can be when you hear him describe it, like that it starts to make sense why some people get so hooked.
Yeah.
It's like they're chasing that feeling, that dopamine rush.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is that Kiyokawa also believed that gambling carried less guilt than other addictions.
Oh, really?
Like drugs or alcohol.
That's an interesting point. Why do you think you believe that?
Well, he argued that gamblers often convince themselves that they're striving for a better life, that they're pursuing a dream. Right. In their minds, it's not about self-destruction.
Right.
It's about aspiration, even if it's misguided.
I guess in a way it allows them to justify their actions.
Yeah.
To push aside those feelings of guilt and keep chasing that next win.
Exactly.
It's a dangerous way of thinking.
It is, and in Kiyokawa's case, it led him down a very specific path to ruin. He started by borrowing from junket operators.
Oh, right. The ones who give them access to your P lines of credit. So who are these junket operators?
Right.
What kind of power do they have in this world?
They're really fascinating. They're like the gatekeepers to the high roller world with deep connections in both the casino industry and the world of wealthy gamblers. They arrange everything for their clients: travel accommodation, and most importantly, access to credit lines that often exceed what traditional banks would offer.
It sounds like they make it very easy for people to get in over their heads.
That's the danger they create, this seamless system where wealthy individuals can gamble with vast sums of money even if they don't have it readily available.
So in a way, they're enabling this behavior,
Yeah.
this addiction.
In many ways, yes. And for Kiyokawa, it was the beginning of a downward spiral. He started borrowing from the junket operators, then maxed out his credit cards, and eventually he was even buying and pawning Rolex watches just to get cash.
Wow. It's almost like the casinos with these junket operators are creating an environment that makes it easy to spend and accumulate debt.
You're picking up on a key point. It's a very seductive system.
Right.
Especially for someone like Kiyokawa, who was used to a lavish lifestyle and the thrill of taking risks.
So where did all this lead? What was his final gamble?
His last big gamble took place in Singapore.
Okay.
In a casino known for its luxury and high roller clientele.
Oh, wow.
It's there that he experienced his biggest win ever.
Okay.
He turned 1.5 million yen into a mind-blowing 2.3 billion yen in just 1 hour of playing baccarat.
Wait, 1.5 million to 2.3 billion?
Yeah.
In 1 hour?
That's right.
That's insane. He must have felt invincible at that point.
Imagine the rush, the euphoria.
Right.
At that moment, he had everything he'd ever wanted.
Wow.
He'd cleared his debts and was sitting on a fortune. His initial plan was to walk away, to quit while he was ahead.
So why didn't he? What happened?
Remember the junket operator? He actually advised Kiyokawa to stop to savor the victory and walk away.
Okay.
But Kiyokawa, fueled by his winning streak and distrustful of the casino's motives, interpreted this advice as a way to protect the casino's interests.
So his judgment was clouded by his wins.
Yeah.
It's like he couldn't see straight anymore.
Exactly. He convinced himself that he could win even more, that his luck was a sure thing.
And did his luck hold? Did he keep winning?
Unfortunately, no. In a cruel twist of fate, he lost everything, the entire 2.3 billion yen, gone in a single night of gambling.
Oh, wow. That's heartbreaking. To go from such a high to such a devastating low, there's a stark reminder of how volatile gambling can be.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even with incredible luck, the odds are always stacked against you.
You're right. The house always wins in the end.
All right, so what were the consequences for Kiyokawa? How did this downward spiral finally end?
The consequences were swift and severe. He was arrested for embezzling funds from 7 subsidiary companies to cover his losses, and his attempts to repay the debts using company stock were thwarted by a rival within Dio Paper who led a coup against him.
So not only did he lose everything he gambled, but he also lost control of the company his family had built over generations.
Precisely, his personal and professional life were in ruins, all because of his unchecked gambling addiction.
Wow. His story is really a cautionary tale. It's so easy to get caught up in the excitement of gambling, to believe that you can beat the odds. But Kiyokawa's experience is a stark reminder of just how destructive it can be. It can affect everything, your finances, your relationships, even your legacy.
You've hit the nail on the head. It's a powerful reminder that we all need to be aware of the risks and to know where to seek help if we or someone we know starts down this path.
This has been a fascinating and sobering conversation. We've gone from the shocking details of these 2 Japanese cases to a broader discussion of the psychology and societal impact of gambling.
Yeah, if we zoom out a bit, these stories, despite being so dramatic, really offer us insights into human behavior, the dangers of unchecked impulses, and the importance of seeking help when needed.
And it's not just about the individual gambler either.
Right.
It's about the ripple effects. Think about the impact on Otani's career, the damage to Dio Paper and the families involved.
Exactly. Gambling addiction can have devastating consequences that extend far beyond the individual, affecting businesses, communities, and loved ones.
So where do we go from here? What can we do to mitigate these risks and address problem gambling?
It all starts with awareness, understanding the psychology behind gambling. Recognizing the warning signs of addiction and knowing where to find help are all crucial steps.
Right. It's about having open and honest conversations about gambling, about acknowledging the potential pitfalls and making sure people know they're not alone if they're struggling.
Exactly. We need to create a culture where seeking help for gambling addiction isn't seen as a sign of weakness, but a sign of strength. It takes courage to confront this issue and ask for support.
I couldn't agree more. It's about breaking down the stigma and providing a safe space for people to talk about their experiences and get the help they need.
This raises an important question for everyone listening. What steps can you take to be more aware of the potential for gambling in your own life and the lives of those around you?
Yeah, that is a powerful question for everyone to think about.
Yeah.
It's easy to think of gambling as something that happens in casinos or with lottery tickets.
Right.
But as we've seen with these two stories, the psychology of risk and reward can show up.
Right.
In unexpected places.
Absolutely. It's like what we were saying earlier about the blurred lines between gambling and other activities like investing or starting a business.
Right. When does a calculated risk become a gamble?
Right.
It's not always easy to define.
And I think that's why these deep dives are so valuable.
Yeah.
They help us examine these complex issues. Right.
And hopefully encourage us to be more mindful of our own choices.
Absolutely. We've covered so much ground today. The Otani case, Kiyokawa's downfall, the psychology of gambling,
right,
the societal impact. It's a lot to process.
It is, but that's the point, isn't it?
Yeah.
To take this stack of information, break it down, and extract those key insights.
Right.
It's about giving you the tools to navigate this complex world.
And one of the biggest takeaways for me is the importance of recognizing that gambling addiction can affect anyone.
Absolutely.
It doesn't discriminate based on wealth, intelligence, or background.
It really does. We often have these stereotypes about who gamblers are.
Yeah.
But the reality is far more nuanced.
Yeah, and just as importantly, we need to remember that there is help available.
Right.
For anyone struggling with gambling addiction.
Absolutely.
For their families and loved ones, there are resources.
Yeah.
Support groups and professionals who can offer guidance and support.
You're absolutely right. There's no shame in seeking help.
Yeah. In fact, it's a sign of strength and a commitment to well-being.
This has been an incredibly insightful deep dive. We've explored the allure of gambling, the psychology behind it, and the devastating consequences it can have.
Right. And we've also touched on the importance of awareness, prevention, and seeking help when needed.
So as we wrap up, I'd like to leave our listeners with one final thought.
Okay.
To ponder.
Go for it.
Considering the many forms gambling can take and how deeply ingrained it is in our culture.
Yeah.
What steps can you take to ensure you're making conscious and informed choices about the risks you're willing to take?
That's a great question to end on. It all comes back to personal responsibility and informed decision-making.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of gambling. We hope this episode has been informative, thought-provoking, and maybe even a little bit life-changing.